After many years of marriage, I was informed it was my responsibility to care for my husband's aging parents, full-time. When I declined, his family called me a disgrace. You made vows. This is your obligation. That night, I packed my things. The following morning, they discovered a note on the table and realized they'd made a huge mistake. I met David at a friend's barbecue 15 years ago. He was charming and attentive, an architect with an infectious laugh who swept me off my feet with thoughtful gestures and genuine interest in my life as a physical therapist. We seemed perfectly matched, both nurturers in our own way. After 2 years, we married in a small ceremony. David's mother Eleanor made several comments about wishing for a larger wedding for her only son, but David smoothed things over as he always did with his mother's remarks. We bought a 3-bedroom house and built what I thought was a blissful life. We decided not to have children, focusing instead on our careers and extended family. David was exceptionally close with his parents, especially his mother. He called her daily and sought her advice on everything from investments to wall colors. When his father died 7 years into our marriage, David's bond with Eleanor intensified. Looking back, I should have noticed how David always prioritized his mother's needs and opinions, how he never stood up to her subtle digs about my cooking or housekeeping. But love blinds you to red flags, waving right in front of your face. If stories about marriage revelations and family obligations resonate with you, subscribe to Reddit Family Sagas. Sometimes the biggest surprises come from the people we think we know best. The first warning sign came 3 years after David's father died. Eleanor called one evening, sobbing about a roof leak. Despite the late hour and pouring rain, David insisted we drive to her house immediately. The emergency was just a minor drip in an unused guest room with a bucket already catching the water. Yet Eleanor claimed she was too frightened to sleep alone. "Mom can stay with us for a few days while I arrange repairs," David announced without consulting me. Those few days stretched into 2 weeks, during which she rearranged my kitchen and criticized my choices. When she finally left, I brushed off my discomfort. Family helps family, right? 6 months later, Eleanor stayed with us for a month due to arthritis flare-ups. When I suggested helping her find a single-level home, David was offended. "Mom's house is full of memories with Dad. She's not leaving it." The most telling incident happened when Eleanor had minor outpatient surgery. David volunteered both of us to care for her, suggesting I take 3 days off work. "You're a physical therapist," he reasoned. "You know how to take care of people." During those days, I noticed David watching me interact with his mother, not with gratitude, but with assessment. He nodded approvingly as I helped her bathe and administered medication. It felt like a test I hadn't known I was taking. Afterward, he was unusually affectionate. "You're so good with Mom. I'm lucky to have found someone like you." The comment made me uneasy, though I couldn't articulate why. Last Tuesday began like any ordinary day. I was preparing David's favorite lasagna while he sorted mail at the counter. The radio played softly as sunlight streamed through the windows. "Oh, I forgot to tell you," David said casually. "Mom's doctor says her arthritis is getting worse. She shouldn't be living alone anymore." I nodded sympathetically. "Has she thought about those senior apartments near the community center? Betty's mother loves it there." David looked puzzled. "Why would she move to an apartment when we have a perfectly good guest room?" My hand froze mid-stir. "You mean temporarily?" "No, permanently. We've always known this would happen eventually." The wooden spoon clattered against the pot. "We've never discussed your mother moving in permanently." "Of course we have. Remember when we bought this house? I specifically wanted the extra bedroom for Mom when the time came." My mind raced back to our house hunting days. David had insisted on a 3rd bedroom, but had mentioned future children or a home office, never his mother. "And you're so good with her," he continued. "You're a natural caregiver. That's one of the reasons I married you. I knew you'd take wonderful care of Mom when she got older." The kitchen suddenly felt airless. "David," I managed, "are you saying you married me partly because you thought I'd be a good caretaker for your mother?" His response, a confused, "Well, yes, of course," hit me like a physical blow. Our entire relationship might have been built on expectations I never agreed to. I locked myself in our bathroom, staring at my reflection. Who was this woman living in a marriage with hidden terms and conditions? Memories flooded back with painful clarity. David's insistence on a house with wide doorways and grab bars he claimed were just practical. His detailed questions about my experience with elderly patients. The way he beamed whenever I helped his mother, taking photos he claimed were sweet memories, but now seemed like evidence of my suitability for a role I never applied for. I remembered our 5th anniversary dinner, when Eleanor inexplicably joined us. David had toasted the 2 most important women in my life. At the time, I'd found it touching. Now it felt calculated. He'd been nurturing a trio, not a partnership. The realization hit me. I wasn't just David's wife. I was an investment, a long-term care solution he'd been grooming for years. The betrayal cut deep. Not because caring for family is wrong, but because the choice had been made for me without my knowledge. My shock morphed into anger. Had our decision not to have children been his preference to ensure I'd have no competing responsibilities when Eleanor moved in? Where did my career aspirations fit into his master plan? For the first time in our marriage, I wasn't going to smooth things over. David would face the consequences of his deception. The next day, I called my sister Jen during lunch break. She answered immediately, concerned by my tone. "What's wrong, Liz? You sound terrible." I explained everything. David's revelation, the years of subtle manipulation, my suspicion that our entire marriage had been built around his mother's future care. "I feel like such a fool," I concluded. 15 years, and I never saw it coming. "Stop that right now," Jen said firmly. "You trusted your husband as you should. He's the one who betrayed that trust." "But maybe I should have noticed." "No, listen to me. When Mike and I got married, we had explicit conversations about expectations, careers, kids, finances, family obligations. That's what healthy couples do. They don't make unilateral decisions about major life changes and spring them on partners 15 years later." Before ending the call, Jen said something that resonated deeply. "He robbed you of choice. Caring for Eleanor might have been something you'd willingly agree to if approached honestly, but he never gave you that dignity." After hanging up, I felt stronger. This wasn't about being unwilling to help family. It was about deception and respect. I deserved a marriage of equals, not a contract with hidden clauses. David was already home when I arrived, sitting at the dining table with brochures. "Perfect timing," he said cheerfully. "I'm looking at options for converting the home office into Mom's bedroom. What do you think about installing one of those medical alert systems?" I remained standing. "We need to talk, David." "What's wrong?" "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about marrying me partly because I'd be a good caretaker for your mother." He nodded, seemingly relieved. "Yes, it's one of the many reasons. You're so compassionate and capable." "Did it ever occur to you to ask if that's a role I wanted?" His brow furrowed in genuine confusion. "But you love Mom, and you're always saying how important family is." "That's not the point. The point is, you made this life-altering decision without ever discussing it with me. You've been planning this for years, while letting me believe we were building a different kind of life." David stood, his expression hardening. "I don't understand why you're making such a big deal about this. It's what families do. They take care of each other." "Don't you dare make this about family loyalty," I said, my voice rising. "This is about honesty. Partnership. Did you ever once explicitly tell me you expected me to become your mother's full-time caregiver? I shouldn't have had to. It should be understood. She's my mother. And I'm your wife, not your employee, not a nurse you hired. Your wife who deserved to know what you were really expecting from this marriage." David's face flushed. "You're being selfish. Mom needs us, needs you. Your skills are perfect for this." "My skills are my own," I said quietly. "To use as I choose. Not as you've planned without my knowledge." He tried a different approach, his voice softening. "Lizzie, please. Mom has always treated you like a daughter, after everything she's done for us. Stop." I held up my hand. "This manipulation might have worked yesterday, but not anymore." David stared at me as if seeing a stranger. Perhaps he was. The woman he married would have acquiesced, smoothed things over. But that woman now understood she'd been deceived for 15 years. "We are not moving your mother in until we've had some serious conversations about our marriage." Have you ever discovered your partner had expectations they never shared with you? The moment you realize the relationship you thought you had isn't the one they've been planning, can shake your foundation. If this story resonates, subscribe for more relationship revelations. This confrontation is just the beginning of a journey that will transform everything. 3 days of tense silence followed. David slept in the guest room, ironically, the very room he'd planned for his mother. I suggested marriage counseling. He initially refused, but eventually agreed when I made it clear this wasn't going away. In our first session, David revealed the family history that shaped his expectations. My father's parents lived with us when I was growing up, he explained. Mom cared for them both until they died. Dad always said it was the greatest gift she gave our family. In David's family, this wasn't manipulation, it was tradition. His mother had sacrificed her career to care for her in-laws, and David grew up believing this was simply what families did. When Dad got sick, he made me promise to take care of Mom. His biggest fear was that she'd end up alone after spending her life caring for everyone else. The counselor asked, "Did you ever share this promise with Elizabeth?" David looked genuinely perplexed. I didn't think I needed to. I thought it was obvious. Nothing about this was obvious to me, I said quietly. I come from a family where grandparents fiercely guarded their independence, where getting help was seen as a last resort, not a birthright. As we talked, cultural differences emerged. David's family came from a traditional background where multi-generational households were the norm. My family valued independence above all. I'm not opposed to helping your mother, I explained. What hurts is feeling like I was selected for this role without my knowledge, like my purpose in our marriage was predetermined without my consent. For the first time, I saw genuine remorse in David's eyes. I never thought of it that way. I just thought we wanted the same things. After several more sessions, I took concrete steps to reclaim my agency. First, I scheduled a private meeting with Eleanor. David protested, but I insisted this conversation needed to happen without him. Over coffee, I explained that while I cared for her, David and I were working through significant issues regarding future living arrangements. I had no idea David never discussed this with you, she said, genuinely surprised. I would never want to impose where I'm not welcome. Next, I drafted what our counselor called a relationship reset, boundaries and needs for rebuilding trust. Continued counseling, postponing decisions about Eleanor's living situation, my involvement in all future major decisions, and David's commitment to examine his tendency to prioritize his mother above our marriage. I temporarily reduced contact with Eleanor to create space for healing and reclaimed the guest room as my home office, a space reflecting my professional aspirations. The following weeks were challenging. David oscillated between resentment and understanding, sometimes within the same day. Surprisingly, Eleanor became an unexpected ally, telling David to fix things with your wife and researching senior communities herself. Our home felt different, tense but authentic. For the first time, we were having real conversations instead of operating on unspoken assumptions. David began asking rather than telling, "What do you think about having dinner with Mom this weekend?" instead of, "We're expected at Mom's on Sunday." My confidence grew as I practiced maintaining boundaries. The most significant change was internal. I stopped automatically accommodating others at my expense, a pattern that extended beyond my marriage into work and friendships. Standing up for yourself in a long-term relationship is one of the hardest things to do, especially when you discover you've been living by someone else's rules. Subscribe to Reddit Family Sagas for more stories about navigating complex family dynamics. Sometimes relationships can be rebuilt stronger after near collapse. 1 year later, our marriage looks nothing like before. After months of therapy and difficult adjustments, we've created something healthier. Eleanor did move, but not into our home. With our help, she found a 1-bedroom apartment in a senior community nearby. She has friends, activities, and the independence she secretly craved. We visit twice weekly, but the relationship has appropriate boundaries now. As for David and me, we've rebuilt on a foundation of transparency. Counseling revealed patterns neither of us had recognized: my tendency to silence my needs for peace, his assumption that his family's way was the only way. Breaking these patterns hasn't been easy, but the result is a partnership where both voices matter equally. The guest room remains my office, where I'm developing plans for the physical therapy practice I'd always dreamed of opening. David has become one of my biggest supporters, helping with the business plan and suggesting locations. Most importantly, we've learned to explicitly discuss expectations rather than assuming agreement. We now have regular check-ins about our needs, frustrations, and hopes. These talks prevent the buildup of unspoken assumptions that nearly destroyed us. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if David had simply asked me 15 years ago if I would be willing to care for his mother someday. I might well have said yes, but as a choice freely made, not an obligation secretly imposed. That's the greatest lesson from this ordeal. True partnership requires choice, and choice requires honesty. Love without transparency isn't really love at all. It's just another form of control. If this story of hidden expectations and rediscovered partnership resonated with you, please subscribe for more journeys through complicated relationships. Have you ever discovered your relationship was built on assumptions you never agreed to? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone recognize patterns in their own relationship. Thank you for listening to this journey of discovery. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought not against enemies, but against the unspoken expectations that shape our lives.